might be a little crooked. Sorry, I was trying to adjust everything fast, but you know, we'll work on it down the road. Make sure all this is mixed up still. So I think where I last left off, I was talking about how I had actually got to Elk Grove, and I worked there actually for just a little over 8 years. Did a lot of different things. Um, had some crazy stuff happen there, all over my law enforcement career. But I'll save that for another live stream. In fact, hopefully when we get some more followers and some people popping in to the chat, we can actually talk about some of the crazy things that went on with my law enforcement career, and also talk about some of the trauma that a lot of police officers and stuff go through, and kind of the ways that I've been able to manage and get through it. So, anyways, so yeah, got to Elk Grove Police Department, and worked there, like I said, for 8 years. And really, getting me back to this neighborhood is what kind of got me back into woodworking, or at least more so. You know, I hadn't done anything in a long, long time. Obviously, I didn't do anything in high school, so that was kind of like a, you know, if I did anything around the houses or stuff, it was just kind of patching things together like my grandpa would do, you know, jury rig and stuff. But anyways, we ended up buying our house, and you know, moving in here, getting married, all that stuff. And you know, once we got here, you know, it was a turnkey house. It was a house that already had a lot of things done to it, but you know, you want to make a house a home, and you got to make those changes and adjustments. And you know, luckily, as you saw in one of my other videos, my father-in-law Tim, you know, he's got a vast amount of experience when it comes to woodworking, when it comes to like rough carpentry, you know, building houses, things like that. And you know, another thing I did a lot of is what you guys are doing here, or hopefully you're going to be doing more so on my channel, is, you know, tuning in, checking out builds, checking out reviews, you know, just, you know, typing in searches and just being like, how do you make a, we'll see, what was the first build I really made here? It was the trellis, but it was more of a, oh gosh, I can't think of what it's called. More like a little, you know, topper for a bar. So it's like kind of a roof, but got the trellis up top. Can't think of what that's called right now, but how to make one of those. And got a couple ideas, went to the Home Depot, found the wood I wanted, figured out I was going to use pressure treated just because it was going to be outside in the elements so long, and spent, you know, the better part of a day with some, you know, Green Machine or Green Beast tools with the Ryobi, cutting things down and getting it all drilled together, and just kind of, I mean, really putting it together and building it as I went. You know, I had an idea on how I wanted to do things, but you know, I didn't have a set instructions or plans I had purchased, or you know, had found something specific from somebody. Just kind of went to it, and then as time went on, working on things around the house and just having things come up that you have to repair and fix. You know, how to rebuild the back fence. Got some help from my father-in-law and uncle and cousin on that. Built a bunch of little garden fences around different parts of the yard to kind of section things off. Started building play structures. Those all had instructions and were, you know, kind of the pre-made prefab kit stuff. But I mean, just going through everything and trying to figure out what to do. And somewhere along that line, probably when I got back into hunting in 2015 and wanting to build some things for either my duck hunting cart or, you know, to hold things around the house, is when I actually started building more projects or trying to figure things out and build it on my own. And then I've talked about it in one of my other videos, or a couple of my other videos. I want to do a DIY build for you guys for a keychain holder or a dog leash holder. And that was really the first like kind of decorative piece I did for the house. My wife had been wanting to put something together for it, and didn't exactly know how she wanted it built, but she knew that she wanted it to be able to hold all of our dog leashes, because at the time we had 4 dogs. And so I kind of came up with an idea of just like simple backer, kind of like you would do with a, some type of plaque, simple wood, used fence boards, joined them together with some glue, clamped them all up so they're nice and tight. Got some, or I should say, had some trim left over from a repair on a door or something, and it was that 90-degree trim. Cut my miters, painted it all up, stained it, glued it, all that stuff, nailed it in, and put some decorative keychain holders on it, or some hooks on it, and it's still in our foyer to this day. Sits out there, holds all of our dog leashes out there, jackets, things like that. And in fact, I started making some other ones out of driftwood that I found, and just staining it and attaching things to it, coat hangers and whatnot, and just making it work. And that was kind of the big thing, is just making things work. And I think it was about 2019-ish, 2020-ish. One of my neighbors was actually had bought a laser engraver and were getting rid of it, and so I purchased it from them, and it was actually the Snapmaker original 3-in-1. So it had the CNC machine, the laser engraver, and the 3D printer, and that got me into doing little things out in the shop out here. And at the time, it wasn't even a shop really; it was just kind of the storage and hobby area. And first started making some 3D printed toys for Kit, and some of those like articulated dragons and snakes and airplanes and stuff. It was cool. I'd love to get back into maybe some 3D printing, just not enough space, not enough time, and honestly, it's just not where I'm at right now. But then tried the CNC machine. It was underpowered, didn't do the best, couldn't really figure it out. Again, something I'd put down the road. But then the laser engraver, I really took it a liking to, and started really kind of focusing on that and working on it. And started off with just doing some simple engravings on some wood, pictures and just names and other things like that. And then eventually started making my own coasters for like family and friends. And from there, that's kind of where I would say the business aspect came in. I started to move from more of that rough carpentry to more of the fine carpentry, making more little things around the house. In fact, I've made 2 items for each daughter now, when it comes to when they were babies, with Kit 1 and Kit 2. We needed a taller changing table because my wife is actually much taller than me, and just bending over a normal changing table was really hurting her back and neck. And so I drew out some plans, had some ideas, looked at some online, figured out what kind of wood I wanted to use, and ended up making one that was the right height, so that you didn't have to bend over. Everything was right here. Added some shelves to it so you had plenty of storage. Actually used some angle iron that I spray painted up with that metallic paint to make it look good. Slapped it all together, made it, probably over-engineered it for what weight it could hold. But it worked great, and we still use it today for Kit 2. And then with Kit 2, we wanted something for like a bassinet to roll around. So I actually made like kind of a rolling cart that was the right height, so that, if you're looking at the bed level, the baby's just below it, but the top of the bassinet's right there. So it's kind of an easy way in and out. And now that's turned into my daughter's, her Kit's Lego cart, so that she can do all of her Legos on it. And I mean, it has been, kind of as I go, what do we need? What can I build? And because of that, and because I'm one of those guys that it's like, okay, I want to do things right. I know I can get by with something that I already have, but really to do it correctly, I need this, or to make it more efficient, I do this, or to save me some time, I need this. So over the last 5 years, I've been slowly acquiring these tools that you see behind me, whether they're used, new, sales, things like that. And now even more so with kind of the business going on. In fact, there's a piece here that I need to do an unboxing on. That'll be a special one coming up in a couple of weeks, when we do the uh, sewing machine desk build. And that planer there, one of the the first things I got when I was doing a bunch of coasters and also like doing the urns, trying to get all the wood to the right thickness and smooth and flat, just different things. And that's where it all kind of came from. And then I ended up finally retiring, taking kind of an early retirement, putting the retirement on hold while I became a stay-at-home dad in 2022, January 2022, and we figured, you know what, we need someone at home. We'd rather have one of us be here to take care of the kids or kid, eventually kids, the dogs, run the house, because either there's trade-offs to everything, right? There's pluses and minuses. Dual income, great money. But how much do you get to do with your kids? You're paying someone else to watch your kids and to see them hit those milestones, and being out there, seeing them, learning to climb up a ladder when they couldn't climb up the ladder on the playground, or starting to ride a bike because you've been working on it, but it's at school or at the daycare. Now they're doing it on their own. And you're getting it by video versus one of you being there, actually seeing it and being with them, not to mention just being able to put out your own, your own values to them instead of someone else giving them their values. Um, Versus, staying at home, losing that income, that second income, you're saving some money there because childcare is not cheap. It's pretty expensive. And even when you get to school, depending on where you're going, private or public and all that other stuff. So, that was our decision where we were at. It made sense both for our family life and financially at the time to make it work. Luckily, the one benefit of COVID for us was toward the end of that, rolling in, the year before the year before I retired, we were kind of just coming off that COVID, you know, um, setup, and got to kind of do some dry run practice runs, just utilizing one income, seeing if it would work. And it's like, hey, it's going to work. Let's just do it. Ended up coming a lot sooner or faster than we thought it was. Instead of it being like a 6 month thing, it ended up turning into like a 2 month thing. But ended up leaving there. Kept working out here on stuff in the shop, doing little pieces for people, friends, family, things like that. But because I had kept a lot of those connections from Elk Grove, um, and just knowing people there, um, started actually kind of getting some requests from them. In fact, the first thing I really actually made for Elk Grove, and it was actually for their end of watch fund, was sad for me and everyone else, and totally broke our hearts. But it was due to the loss of Officer Ty Lenahan, who was killed tragically in a car accident by a DUI driver. And um, I had just retired. I think it was like 3 months before that. I had actually haven't told everyone this, and I'm not going to air out everything that was said on it, but my last day, or second to last day there, I actually ran into him, and I had known him, talked to him here and there. By no means was I like his best friend, or, you know, a good friend. I was more of an acquaintance, coworker. And, I got kind of the gambit when you leave. Law enforcement's one of those weird things. It's the camaraderie, the brotherhood, everybody's together. And when someone's getting ready to retire, due to age, it's these big cheers and everything else, and have happy retirement. But when you're younger, it's kind of like, well, why are you leaving? Don't you love doing all this? Well, yeah, it's a lot of fun, but there's other things that aren't so fun. And if I'm going to do this for my family, because that's what I want to do. It's my family first. And, I'd heard guys saying like, "Oh, you're living the dream life. You got the sugar mama that's going to be taking care of you, and you just basically get to be retired and be at home." Well, it ain't that easy. A lot more work here than it was over there a lot of the times. Um, and then on the flip side, you had the guys that were like, "Oh, quitter," you know. Um, but the one thing I will say, especially with my department and the guys there that I knew, is that everyone was like, "Hey, we get it. You want to be there for your family? Go do it. Family first." And one of the conversations I had actually on my last day there was with him, and he said, basically that, he really thought what I was doing was great, was so happy for me being able to do that. It was something that he wished that maybe they could do with his family in the future, but right now it wasn't the thing. And that, he just had nothing but good things to say about what I was doing. And it really, besides everyone else saying it, I know a lot of people meant it, but sometimes you hear people say it and it's just kind of that lip service. You're like, yeah, it's cool. Thanks, man. But you could tell he just actually meant it from his heart. And I could still remember waking up and, seeing the news and seeing a text from a good friend of mine saying, "Hey, I just want to let you know so you don't have to find out this way. This is what just happened." Um, and I mean, I don't know what funeral that is that I've gone to for law enforcement and cops, 10 or 15th, something like that. I don't know. I lost track, used to do them all the time. As like an honor guard from Arcata, and then just going to them just because it's the right thing to do. Um, but I mean, I was back at the police department going to the different ceremonies they had for him there, to his funeral. Never knew the guy really that well, but just from what I did know of him, just a stand up guy, officer, father, um, just an all around great guy. And from that, the end of watch fund, which is what's helped support when officers do get killed in the line of duty, and help support their family afterwards. And they help do fundraisers and things to get that money to help with those events and the families. They had made a really cool memorial badge for him, and I had asked the president at the time, would you be willing to let me have it so I could make some coasters with it to send back east for Police Week for when they do the actual memorial wall update? And he said sure. So I did those, and then I talked to him and said, hey, how would you guys like it if I just did it for you guys to do at your end of watch events? And it'll be just material cost. I'm not going to charge you guys my labor or anything else. At that time, I wasn't even a real business fully yet. I wasn't really trying to make money at that time. If it would made a few bucks here or there, I just wanted to do the right thing for them and get something for them out that they could give the family and friends, or try to make some money to help raise funds for their family and friends. And luckily, they allowed me to do that, and that's really what got the ball started for me looking at this as not just a hobby, but as a business. The potential there, and I still, for me personally, like, I feel like, in this day and age, everyone's about money, right? You got to make money, and to run a business, you got to make money. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to charge you to make my money, make my living, and hopefully grow and succeed. But there are certain times where you got to step back and look at what you're doing, and is it for the right reasons, and is it, not just morally wise, but also and ethically wise, but also like monetarily wise, both in your house, but also as a business standpoint. If I'm doing something as a project for a nonprofit, especially something that means something to you, you know, um, the best option is if I can donate it. And I've done that a couple times, donated goods to people and different organizations, but also, how can I do it the cheapest for them, because it's going to help them out and help others out. And for the most part, with anything I made, few, except for down the road when we had some other things come up that were not some related to specifically Thai, um, you know, charge them a little bit of money for my time, but just material costs and a little bit of time. And I still keep that with me when it comes to certain items, and who it's going to and what it's for. Um, and also just in general, like, I feel like things get way overcharged just because you can, instead of should you. And though this is an industry and business and capitalism, and I totally agree with all that, I feel like sometimes we can, as a people in society, just take a step back and go, what's the difference between, we'll call it a large number, $5 million and $50 million. Yeah, $50 million is even better. You can buy that new yacht and everything else, but $5 million, man, you're going to be able to live, retire, and have a great time. And same thing when you apply it to a smaller principle of, you know, here's what it cost me, here's my time, what I value it at, my knowledge, everything else. This is why I'm the person to do this. And if you are that top tier guy, like, you can even charge more, but is it worth it to be able to reach the clientele you're looking for, right? Depends on where you're at in your business. And I probably am saying this in a negative way to hurt me more when it comes to business stuff, but like, it's just my honest opinion. We can look at things as materials and goods and services, and I would rather pay someone because they're a good kind person that does really good work and is a professional at their job than try to pay someone more just because that's what they said, because that's how highly they think of themselves. And anyways, I digress. We're back to me on this. Um, but yeah, so that's really what started me into to trying to make this into a business. And I got to give them credit because of the coasters I made, um, either for free or at cost, depending on who it was going to and all that. Um, that's really what kind of started to get my first growth in the business. And at the time, I didn't know what to call it. It was Laser Fox, Fox Shop, whatever. And one of the things I had started doing is making actual custom builds for family members and friends, um, and having Kit out here with me. And she started doing a little bit of sanding, and a little bit of staining, and cleanup around the shop. And I started thinking, Kit, that's what a baby fox is, and she's my baby, so Fox and Kit, Fox and Kit WoodWorks. So ended up going with that name, making my own logo. And that's where it started. And that's where the whole kind of garage shop business went. And because of End of Watch and them putting my pictures out there of the products I had done, me creating an Instagram and getting tagged in those, I actually started getting other officers messaging me and asking me, hey, can you make this? Can you make that? And a lot of them were all the same things I was already making, but it did lead to a local agency reaching out to me going, hey, I really liked what I saw with what you did with the tie coasters. Could you do that for my division with our patch? And did that and ended up making two orders, pretty large orders for me at the time. And mind you, at that time, on that first order and all the other coasters I'd done, I was working on a little tiny Snapmaker original 3-in-1. I had about that big of a base plate that I could work on. If I wanted to do anything bigger than that, I had to shift it around, try to line it up. It was just a pain. And but it was perfect for coasters, and it was perfect size for coasters, but it was very slow. And um, to do like orders of 40 and 60 coasters, it was taking me just to laser engrave. I think a single coaster was like an hour to an hour and a half, with depending on the detail. So it was a very big labor of love and learning process. So that's where I was at first, and started to grow a little bit more, getting some more orders from neighbors that were seeing me out in the shop, working or doing projects with Kit, and eventually, um, you know, finally got some bigger orders that was like, hey, you know what, this is something I can do. It's a nice hobby in the background. It's kind of the best thing, best thing to do is having a job that can pay well is great, but having a job that you love to do is even better. And that's kind of what this is. Not to mention a hobby, a learning experience. Allows me to be able to um, teach my daughters now good life skills with when it comes to like fixing things around the house, building things, projects, and showing them like, hey, you think you can't do it, but you can do it, because guess what? I was never, and by no means am I saying I am a, you know, elite, well trained woodworker, but I feel like I'm pretty good these days and am still learning a lot every day. But that I started with that much experience, zero experience, primarily, self taught, watching videos, going around asking questions. Did get a lot of experience once I met my father in law, Tim, and going from there and learning a lot of like one on one experience, one on one knowledge, which helped me out even, helped me massively out to be able to do different things. And to be able to show them like, look, it doesn't matter, even if it's woodworking. You come out here, hit the hammer, and get frustrated. You can't hammer a nail in holes. You're, not even 5, and that's a hard wood with a little nail. Like, yeah, keep beating on it. Eventually, you'll get it in. You can do it. And then when you do it, good job, you did it. See how you could overcome that? You can do anything then. And so, trying to pass those skills on. Not to mention, one of the big things for me is therapy. And we'll go into another video on that down the road. Maybe we'll do that around September. You guys can figure that one out on your own. But, um, it's a form of therapy. So all in all, it benefits me, and on the the second part of it is, potentially earns me some money, whether it's to put back in the shop to buy new equipment, fix things around the house, make it a fund for, vacations or birthdays or whatever. It's kind of what it's there for too. And it's definitely been growing every year. I've been now doing this kind of officially for 3 years, and every year I've not made huge profits, but I've pretty much doubled my profit every year, and I'm looking at doing the same this year if things keep going the way they go. And kind of at that point, sky's the limit. But that being said, it's just overall just been a great thing for me to get into, and really getting that stress relief therapy, but also getting to meet nice people. Every person I've worked with has been a good person and nice people, and appreciative. I'm as appreciative of them for choosing me to make something for them as probably some as they seem to be as appreciative of me for making it for them. So it's really helped out on that aspect. But that's kind of my long-winded short bio without going into too many details. Only thing I would probably end on is like now we're in 2025. Did get some upgrades around. The big thing was the laser for my 40th birthday. Got that X-Tool S1. That thing has really helped me out and really expanded the business more. I've actually been doing more work on that than I have the woodworking right now, just because I haven't had the time to do the woodworking and get those products out to people to show them, like the dog urns. But it has definitely been something really fun to learn on, and I'll definitely do some videos down the road just going over XCS and how to use it, how to like figure out what you need to do with your laser work. But anyways, with that being said, I will go over what I'm doing right now. So as you guys saw, I was cleaning all this glassware. I haven't done a video on it before, but I had done the glassware before and actually using acrylic paint, which was really hard to remove. I've now found out that this tempera paint is what a lot of people use after watching a bunch of videos. Hopefully you guys will do the same and learn something from me one day. But that's been working great for my glassware. So now we're into the stages of actually putting it on. One of the things with tempera paint, they say, is use water, not, to mix it with. I found out that the isopropyl alcohol works best because it lets it dry faster, and I haven't noticed any issues. So really all you're trying to do with this glassware is clean it up nice and clean, put this paint on where you want it, and then have your laser settings all set up and your jig's ready to go and start going away. But anyways, hope you all get to see this down the road. If you didn't catch it on the live stream, since I think I'm the only person watching it on my other one. But one day we'll get there and have maybe some questions and answers down the road at the end. But you all stay safe. Have a great day.